Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here, and welcome back to the Runebound Retrospective. And this is episode 2, and in episode 2, we will take a look at the Island of Dread, the first big box expansion. So let's take a look at the back of this box here. Runebound 2nd Edition, The Island of Dread. Explore the uncharted islands of the world of Runebound and piece together lost maps to the fabled Island of Dread. By sea or land, adventure awaits all brave heroes, whether they swing swords or cast spells. But this says, welcome to the Island of Dread, the first full-size expansion for the best-selling and critically acclaimed Runebound fantasy adventure board game. Island of Dread features a gorgeous new board overlay that creates a completely new game environment. The expansion also features 110 new cards, including new heroes, encounters, challenges, events, and equipment. The 8 new heroes in the expansion are presented with beautifully sculpted plastic figures. Finally, the expansion presents new rules for sea travel that allow heroes to explore the scattered islands of the dangerous sea. Will you be the first to discover the Island of Dread and confront a reawakened evil from the Lost Age? So, Runebound 2nd Edition Island of Dread once again contains a beautifully illustrated cover by Jesper Eising. I absolutely love his art. I think this is a pretty cool cover. It's not my favorite of his, and we will discuss my favorite when we get to it, but it is still really good. Again, this is from an era of Fantasy Flight games where I really do love the art. And speaking of the art, let's take a look at the manual real quick. So this is a fold-out manual. I am not a big fan of these. They're kind of cumbersome, but I did want to take a look at the credits here. So the credits are game design by Martin Wallace and Daryl Hardy. Development on this expansion was Alfredo Laurenti and John Goodenough. And then we do have the cover art by Jesper Eising and card art by John Goodenough, Eric Deschamps, Hian Rodriguez, Andy Brace, Kieran Yanner, Lou Frank, John Moriarty, Ben Prevenovst, and Jesper Eising, and others. So, Runebound, the Island of Dread, is a great example of how art, theme, and setting can make something similar feel a lot different. Longtime viewers of the Dungeon Dive will know that I am a pretty big fan of nautical themed fantasy. And just by changing up the art and the setting, I am instantly drawn into this world, into the adventure presented in the Island of Dread. In the Island of Dread, you will be questing across these islands. And at certain points, you will want to visit settlements, and in the settlements, you can hire sea captains to traverse these sea lanes, and you can head out into the wide open oceans, the wide open seas of the Ceridor Sea. There is something innately adventurous about an ocean, about the sea. It's the mysterious depths, it's the wide open horizon, it's the ever-expanding kind of It feels like it is expanding into the horizon of adventure, and a wide open sea just screams adventure to me. In the Island of Dread, you are once again trying to kill a big bad guy. And in this instance, it is a creature from the sea, very kind of Cthulhu-esque, you would say. And the main bad guy you are trying to kill in this adventure here is Asif Shib-Sa. And a pretty powerful monster there. It's definitely inspired by a great old one. I really do enjoy the way that looks. And here's a quick look at some of the other big bad monsters that you will be facing off in your finale. And to find your big bad, you will have to venture out and discover the Island of Dread. And the Island of Dread is represented by this placard here, and you will set your final adventure cards on that card. In order to find that island, you need to go on adventures, and you need to discover different different map pieces, I should say. There are blue maps and there are green maps. And to find the island, you have to have a pair, and a pair is a green and a blue. And then you have to state that you are searching for the island, and then you can find it and go on your final adventure. You can also trade these map pieces for legendary items, and those legendary items are represented by these tokens. This is one of the things that I don't like about this expansion. I think these legendary items should have just been cards because they are little tokens, and while they are kind of cool and hefty and nice to hold, they don't have any of the rules written on the token. And so to figure out what they do, you have to take your unwieldy, oversized pamphlet rulebook and turn to the legendary item key. So you have things like the spear of Trelton, the sword of Antenor, the talisman of Corsic Amen, the helmet of Trelton, the shield of Antenor, the emerald of Corsic Amen, the jewel of Trelton, and the book of Corsic Amen. And each one of those legendary items, you need to have the pair of maps to find. Then you can draw whichever one you want from the pile. And then that gives you, it's a one-time use item. So it's kind of like this constantly kind of cycling pool of legendary items that you can also go questing for. When you move into a settlement, there is an additional thing that you can do during your market phase. And in this game, when I play this expansion, I play my house-ruled market that I talked about in the previous video. So in addition to buying your gear at your blacksmith or hiring your allies, buying runes and artifacts, when you go to a settlement, you also have an opportunity to hire a sea captain. And you need to hire a sea captain before you can start venturing out into the open waters. And once you have a sea captain, then you can move from a port at one of the settlements following one of these sea lines. And as you travel, or these sea lanes, I should say, and as you travel, you will have to stop at each anchor point. And the anchor points are actually the blue/purple adventures in this expansion. So this expansion comes with a whole new deck of blue/purple cards. It comes with a new deck of green adventures, a new deck of yellow adventures, a new deck of red adventures, and finally the grand finale, the silver deck. And so that's where your bosses are going to be. So the purple deck of sea adventures, these range from very powerful to kind of weak. There is a large variety in here, and it can be very chancy. You never really know what you're going to find. You might find some drowned souls, maybe some merfolk charioteers, a mad sorcerer Astis, a spectral dragon ship. Oh, that is super cool there. A ghost ship, a sea dragon. You will have some quests that you can go on, or maybe you might find the Kraken of the Deep. You also have these actual things that are called quest cards, and I think these are new in this expansion. And when you solve a quest card, when you complete a quest card, you can actually take that, and there will be points later on with other cards to turn in those quests to trigger special abilities. Right now, my character that I am playing has this quest for lore, and I have to take this card and I have to travel all the way over here to the Mountains of Ash, which I'm almost at the Mountains of Ash, and I need to pass a certain test in order to find this. Let's see, the dwarves know much about the history of these lands. If you can find the entrance to their underground fortress, you may learn much about the nightmares you are living through. So you have to search the Mountains of Ash to find the dwarven lair, and then you can learn this quest of lore and then possibly use that at another time. In this expansion, you will also have these new events, and a lot of the events in this expansion will actually do something that's pretty cool. They will actually change the geography of the map. We'll take a look at some of the yellow or green, yellow, and red adventure cards in a minute. But certain events will have you place these land tokens on various sea spaces. So as you can see, some of the spaces will have a color border. And at certain points, you may have to cover up certain numbered borders. So this is number 1 here. And so if you're told to cover up number 1, you may have to place this all the way at number 1 here, and that might cover up something that you could normally do on the map. I should say one thing that I forgot to mention is this new map. This new map is actually just an overlay that you unfold and put on your original board for Runebound. And I think this is a wonderful way to accomplish a new board in a board game. But you will also see these red outline spaces, and those are all sea spaces. However, at some point the sea rises, and so those will actually become little land bridges. And so it will kind of, it'll section off the various sea elements, and then you have more of a typical kind of overland adventure game here. This is super cool. I love this idea of the land changing while you are playing. I like the thematic idea of the land changing because of the things that are happening underneath the ocean. It adds another element of another thematic element to this expansion. So while I am playing Island of Dread, I also use the City of Adventures expansion. We did take a look at this expansion in the first episode, and this expansion also comes with cards that represent all of the settlements on the Island of the Dread map. So we have the settlement of Adalic, and this says the fair town of Dalek was first founded a decade ago after Queen Yvain's bloody take over Trelton. Many nobles fled south to begin anew, with what remained of the families and the wealth. In subsequent years, what had begun as little more than a fishing village grew into a prosperous town with a large lumber mill and even its own shipyard. And then we also have cities like Trelton and Talisant and Garnot. Garnot is this city is home to a large population of wood elves, guardians of an ancient grove of speaking trees. Unlike their more sophisticated kindred, their feral nature makes them quick to attack any who threaten them. For the rare few who can earn their trust, no greater allies can be found. So yeah, this is a great example. Like I said at the beginning, this is a great example of art and theme completely winning me over. I love this expansion a lot. I love the idea of heading out into the open sea. I love the idea of hiring these various captains, and the captains will act as allies, but they don't count against your limit of having 2 allies hired. Sometimes you might be out of gold, but you need to hire an ally, so you can actually, or you need to hire a captain, so you can actually hire a captain on loan. And if you do so, any rewards you get while traveling are given to the captain, so you don't get them, but you don't have to pay. The cheapest captain is actually a 0-cost captain, and that captain has a funny little rule where they get to keep anything that they find, any kind of treasure. Most of the captains cost 1 gold, and then one of them costs 4 gold. But it's pretty cool because once again, if you have one of those quests that you've completed, then you could actually hire this 4 gold captain for 1 gold, and he is very powerful. So the captains can actually help you attack and help you take care of the big sea monsters that you'll be fighting. However, if your captain dies while you are out at sea, or you get knocked out while at sea, then you will become shipwrecked, and you will have to become shipwrecked, and you will wash up on the shore of the closest island. My game so far, I've been playing with Lysa of the East, and right now she is traveling with 2 companions here, 2 allies, a Griffin Wanderer and an Alkalite of Flame. And she has 2 weapons right now. She has the Dragon Tooth Hammer and the Black Dagger. And she's had a real rough go of it so far. She got attacked by a rock, and the rock took her weapon and then picked her up and deposited her all the way up in the north. And then I had to hire a sea captain to try to come back down so I could get revenge on the rock in order to get my dagger back, because I really like that dagger. But on the way back, I got attacked by some merfolk, and they killed me. So then I got shipwrecked, and I ended up on this island over here, while the rock with that I needed to get my weapon back was just right here. I was so close to getting there, but I got shipwrecked. So then I ended up on this island. I went to this city here, the city of Gafford. And in the city of Gafford, I rolled up on one of the City of Adventures. I wrote up this Ride the Wind. And this says that after a recent battle, there are more griffins than riders. For 2 gold on your next turn, move to anywhere on land except the Island of Dread instead of rolling movement or sailing. That was super cool. So I got to spend my 2 gold and I came back over here. I killed the griffin. I got my weapon back. I went to the city of Dalek. I hired my 2 allies. And now I'm heading over here to complete my quest for the Mountains of Ash. I've had a great, just adventurous time playing the Island of Dread. So most of the item cards for this expansion I have already mixed in to my base game cards, so I'm not going to pull all of those out, but I did pull out a few so you can there is a symbol here that shows this little wheel symbol that shows that this is part of the Island of Dread expansion. And so this is just kind of a sample of some of the items that you might find using this expansion. You might have an Elven Cloak or a Cloak of Frozen Peaks, a Shield of Glyphs, a Bone Sword, and a Sunplate armor. Here is one of the allies from this expansion, the Rune Enchantress. And then here are the various heroes that come with this expansion. We have Trinlo the Strong. We have an Adira Runehand. We have Icefer, Steelhorns, Landre the Wise, Vera the Falconer, and Grey Kier. And then real quick, let's take a flip through of the green, yellow, and red adventure cards. So these are the easy adventure cards here. So we have the Cerador Pirates, the Master of Flames, the Screeching Abomination. Oh man, that guy looks cool. Here's another quest, or another event, I should say. The Blessings and Curses, the Coral Golem. Man, the art in this expansion is really, really good. Here's a couple more quests. The quest for the Silver Key. Lovecraft fans there. The quest of the Black Lotus. I do like how this is kind of a Lovecraftian theme because of the kind of the great old ones coming out of the sea, maybe performing some dark rituals, or a god cultist, the rising god cultist, the Whites of the Crypt. Yeah, super cool. This expansion is super thematic. I love it. And then here we have our yellow adventure deck. We have the Enchanter Gran Ray, Dukreen the Mad Knight. He looks great. The Shadow Dragon, the Guardians of the Deep, the Fetid Mangahusa, the Bloodthirsty Dalaufor, the Green Terror, and the Cult of the Fireworm. You could mix in some of your other encounter cards from your other expansions, but they won't match the backs. When I play the big box expansions, I try to only focus on the encounter cards that come in that expansion, just so it creates a stronger theme. And then there's a few of the red cards there. Not quite as many, but that's okay because you also have, of course, your silver cards and your blue sea cards, which there are quite a few of these blue sea cards that we have taken a look at. So when I'm playing the Island of Dread, I still use the In the Wilds expansion, the fan expansion that I talked about in the last episode. And that just helps kind of fill out some of the empty spaces for adventure. But I don't play with the quest cards because this expansion already has some of those quest cards, some of those things that you can go questing for. And when I'm playing one of the bigger expansions, I kind of like to focus just on what that expansion has to offer in order to get that real sense of theme. So, all right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed taking a quick look at Runebound 2nd Edition, the Island of Dread expansion. I've had a ton of fun playing this. This might be my favorite of the big box expansions because it adds, I love the theme, and it doesn't add a lot of complications. Some of the other big box expansions add quite a few more rules to the exploration, and I think the rules maybe sometimes get in the way of the adventure, but for me, this is kind of that perfect mix of just adding a really cool theme and setting on top of a game that has mechanisms and things that I already enjoy. So we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.